How would you show up differently if you felt amazing in the body that you have now? Hey, it's Heather Chauvin, wife, mother of 3 boys, former social worker, breadwinner, recovering hustler, and stage 4 cancer survivor. I'm not a fan of that term, by the way. Beyond all of these titles and labels, I'm a human being, just like you, attempting to navigate it all while feeling good. My goal on this podcast is to show you that you can live an energized, sustainable life, both at home and in your work. It doesn't matter if you stay at home full-time, if you work from home, you're a CEO, a successful business owner, or trying to find some inspiration. On this show, I attempt to keep it real with stories, interviews, and random thoughts. This is not a business or career podcast, and it's not a parenting podcast. It's both and so much more. You will laugh. You may even cry, and you may even get a little frustrated with the truth you've been hiding from yourself. I believe all human behavior is a language, whether it's through your child's behavior, your health, or a relationship. And when we learn to listen instead of react, we begin to understand what it truly means to feel alive and in control. It's time to put your big girl pants on and find your brave. Let's go. Hey ladies, I'm so excited to introduce today's interview with Amanda Walker. She is the founder of the podcast Feel Amazing Naked. And Amanda and I have been working together for, a year and a half. She's been a client of mine. And she found me because she wanted to really debunk what or how women perceive food and fitness, their relationships to it. And I'm a huge advocate of women helping women. And I am not shy to the fact that I tell Amanda on this podcast, and I've said this to her many times in my life, that, although she hired me, she also has changed my life. One of the kind of core concepts of Mom is in Control, and the brand behind this podcast, is to live in alignment with how you want to feel. But here's the thing. Whether it's motherhood, whether it's food, whether it's fitness or business, we have been brainwashed to believe certain things about ourselves. And I think this is a really important conversation to listen to, and also one that you need to kind of continuously have with ourselves and other women in our lives. Because it doesn't matter what the scale says. It's how you feel about your body and your life. So I'm really excited for you to listen to Amanda Walker. Definitely go download her podcast, Feel Amazing Naked, and follow her stuff. She's always giving away free content, freebies, and she runs an amazing coaching program as well. So let's dive in. Okay, we're recording. It's official. Woo! Some technical difficulties, but we made magic happen.
It's always just like, how bad do you want it?
I know. We should talk about that. Ooh. How bad do you want it? So how long have you been in my life, Amanda?
It feels like a long, long time, like in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's been just over a year.
It's definitely probably like 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess in life. Yes. And officially you becoming a hero in my life, even over a year or so.
Okay. So this is interesting because it just blows my mind how people can live in different area of genius and help each other out, right? Because you and I've never personally worked with you in a professional capacity, but you've really helped me just in our conversations that we've had and through the content, the free content that you give away, which is why everyone needs to follow you, but about food and mindset and feeling amazing naked, which is what your brand is called. Mm-hmm. But it blows my mind that, well, first of all, we're recording this. It's the holiday season, so you have a little Christmas tree in the background.
And food tree, by the way, all the ornaments are food.
Oh, really? What? I can't
Yeah.
tell from here. What kind?
Let's see, like that's sweet potato toast. That's
Oh
a
my,
hamburger, bacon, broccoli, sushi.
I didn't know that. That's so
Yeah.
funny. I'm like, what would be on my tree? Like little meditators or like
Oh, now
little
I'll have to be
fuck
on
you
the hunt.
emojis. Yeah, little fuck you emojis. Little sayings. Okay, so it blows my mind. I said, okay, everyone lives in their area of genius and we can support each other. And I've really shifted into this mindset of, I did this a while ago, but really embodying it now. I don't need to know everything. That is why we're all here to support each other. This women helping women rise, right? We need to, what's that saying? All tides lift all
Rising tides lift all ships.
yeah, rising tides lift all ships. And just when you know something, but you're looking for the right person to support you when it comes with food. So the reason why I made that comment about the holidays is because this is probably the time of year where everyone starts to freak out about food and fitness and weight. And then January is all about new year, new resolutions.
Mhm.
So I'm just very curious about your perspective, even over the last few years. You've been talking about food and supporting women. What are you noticing? And then we'll go back into like, how did you get here before that?
I notice at this time of year too, it's a built-in belief system that you should throw in the towel during the holidays and just start over in January. And, one of the root causes that I see in so many women I work with is this all or nothing mindset that they've adapted to over time. And so it just is like so magnified during the holidays. And it's so much easier to just give up on yourself and throw in the towel and say, oh, I'll just wait, because we get so overwhelmed and paralyzed by the notion that it has to look perfect. And so perfect looks like New Year's resolutions and starting in January when you're bombarded with all of this, I'm just going to use generically this templated opportunities to buy this thing for $9.99 and this thing for $20, which are all continued quick fix opportunities. And so, of course, my hope and my passion is helping women see that they no longer have to subscribe to that cycle, that they can just be intentional 365 days a year. And they almost get to just kind of ignore this hype that happens during the holidays and just tune into what they've been doing every single day of the year.
I always find that this time of year is like go time. It's not the time to stop or to slow down, right? You're like at your last mile of a marathon, like create this steadiness, like do what you're doing, but like it's not a time to like stop and just like end the fucking race. Like, first of all, it's not a race. You're not in a race. You're living your life. And I don't talk about food and fitness so much, but it's this, managing your energy, managing your time, going after what you want, being intentional, living in alignment with how you want to feel, and doing that with your children's behavior, doing that with your business, doing that with all aspects of you, your relationships. It is definitely not time to throw in the towel. If anything, it is now time to put all of the strategy, all of the tools into play. So can you talk about, I know you're a big advocate for habit formation. Can you talk about that when it comes to, it doesn't even have to be food, because it doesn't matter if it's food, if it's fitness, anything in your life, business, it's habit formation.
It 100% is. And we look, we believe that focusing on the big ticket item, right? The loss of 50 pounds, for you help me, you're helping me and have helped me with business tremendously. So it's that, revenue goal that we want to hit for that year. So sometimes we're so focused on those big goals that we miss sight of the daily strategy that helps us achieve those big goals. And it's very common that when we're ready to, commit ourselves to a journey of, health, that we want to make all the changes at once. We want to, focus on our food. We want to focus on our sleep. We want to focus on hydration, focus on fitness. And so, of course, that short-term intensity just peters because we go so hard, 110%, we fall off. And so when we focus instead on the micro actions on a day-to-day basis that take us this long haul, we actually get that 50 pounds of loss or that energy back by focusing on the daily action And we look back and we're like, how the hell did I even get here? I don't even feel like I did this huge overhaul. And that's because you said, you know what? What's the thing that's going to take us where we want to go the fastest first? For me, typically that energy is spent around food. And so it might be something as simple as just like, all we're going to do right now for the next week is I want to see a protein on your plate at every single meal and in every single snack. I don't want you to even worry about everything else yet. And we're going to get so freaking good at that it becomes a part of who we are. And then we're going to trickle in the next thing. And maybe that's vegetables, right? And we're focusing on inclusion and we're focusing on mastering something before you start to drip in the next thing. And I think we miss the mark often because we try to overhaul everything and overwhelm sets in and we shut down and we're like, oh, there's got to be something easier than actually doing this hard work.
Yeah, I notice that too when people start like mastery, like it's 8 months for a reason, right? You're here for 8 months, slow the fuck down. You know, I've broken it down step by step, but then it's like, well, I see all the things and I want them all now. And then the common question I get is, statement is, I'm not patient. And we have to realize, well, you've come how far in your life? Like how many years and decades have you been alive? When do you realize like time is not going anywhere? If you don't kind of surrender to the fact that this is a, step-by-step process, you're just going to chronically feel overwhelmed and never see a result. So what do you say to someone who is in that state and they're like, I just want it now, and they cannot get out of that all or nothing mindset, and it seems almost too simple to scale back?
Well, I think my first question is, how has that served you up to this point? If you want quick fix results, how has that cycle left you so far? And usually a woman can say, well, I'm talking to you, right? And so it's just kind of like, what would it look like if you actually were willing to accept slower, intentional progress so that you don't have to come back to the new year looking for that quick fix, or in 6 months, you haven't sought out a weight loss center through calorie deprivation that you've paid thousands of dollars to lose 20 pounds, but gain 30 pounds back. And the truth is that you and I both know that some women aren't ready or aren't willing to take that approach yet. But I trust that they're going to at some point come to that place in their life where they kind of, that light bulb moment comes on and they're like, oh, these quick fix strategies, I now see them and I'm ready for something that actually lasts longer and sticks with me. Because how frustrating is it to keep doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome?
Are you noticing a trend with this where people are kind of getting annoyed of the quick fix strategies? Like I see it all the time in the parenting world. And people are like, that doesn't work. I'm like, of course it doesn't work, but you bought into this. So, are you noticing a trend where people are picking up on the bullshit?
I mean, it's so hard to say, I guess, because the people I think that both you and I tend to attract are those people, and they've come to us, or they've immersed themselves in our message and our content because they're there. What I think is a challenge for women especially is we are bombarded with social media, and you can, I follow tons of fitness and health people, and you have this duality that exists. You have coaches that want to really create transformation like ourselves, but then you have online experts who want to cultivate a pocket filled with cash because of short-term strategies. And I'm not saying those are wrong, and I think they have their place even. But I think for the woman doesn't have clarity yet, that's really a struggle point. That's very overwhelming because it's very easy to see on this Instagram feed what this person's journey looks like and think that this $20 purchase is going to make it last. But intuitively, if you just common sense, like think about nothing's going to change your life for $20. And if you have that thing, tell me about it because I want it too. Mm-hmm. And so I think there is an investment that the right kind of woman is willing to make, who's ready to do the hard work, that's ready to do the introspective work that I think it takes time to get to.
Yeah. And it's not just about the template. Like if you want to learn how to look on Pinterest, like you can get meal planning ideas, go buy a book, like you can get all of that. But there's the reason why you're not seeing results is because there's something deeper going on, and it's the whole person. And
and the journey never ends. Like you are constantly learning and growing and evolving. So let's go back to your journey. Like, how did you become the Feel Amazing Naked woman? Because a lot of times when you,
I like that you said that.
the Feel Amazing Naked woman,
Yep.
woman, yeah. How did you become who you are today? Like going back to your journey, I'm assuming food wasn't always your thing.
It wasn't. So, I mean, way back, I was a high school teacher for 10 years, taught anatomy and physiology. Science has always been my thing. And went to grad school, taught high school for 10 years, decided to focus on motherhood and left that career knowing the entire time the conversations my husband and I had was there is got to be more than just this. And nothing against teachers. I loved that job, but I knew there was something more. Fast forward, after my second baby, my son, I ended up being diagnosed with an autoimmune issue that left me having to eliminate foods, going, completely gluten-free, and just feeling so much better in my life through food. And I already dabbled. I taught group fitness. I'd been in the health space for so long, but that kind of ignited my journey to dive deeper. And from there, though, it was like I was working on food quality and knowledge. And then I would say that I became really attracted to the notion of seeing like how far can I push my physical appearance, my aesthetic appearance, and started really, tracking my macros and being really intentional about that. And I would say that that journey became somewhat obsessive. And I was like, I'm gonna see how far I can get this. I never really saw what was happening necessarily around me. And I got to this like end goal, right? This shredded 6-pack abs. And I felt pretty damn empty inside. And so I was like, okay, definitely missed the boat here. What's going on? And I would say that began my personal journey towards personal development and introspective work, and really starting to kind of figure that out. And I'd already been coaching clients heavy on the food work, and I was seeing the same thing happen with them. They got to the goal, but it was like there was no magic happiness showers that poured on them. And it was this light bulb moment where I started collecting data of what would it look like if I mirrored this physical transformation with this internal transformation. And I challenged my clients to actually flip the script and do the internal stuff first. And in doing so, what I began to see was that when they focus on the inside stuff, right, the mindset first, better understanding themselves and what they were really after, then the physical stuff just like naturally came along with it. And so that's when this notion of feeling amazing naked came to me, and that super ambiguous. To feel amazing naked isn't necessarily like a specific size. It's just understanding that the internal self has to be nurtured and grown in order to be completely satisfied with the external self as well.
So I always love talking about human behavior. I see it as a language, and how people are like, I just need this. Like, if you could just give me this. And usually you can hear something underneath it, right? They think they need this. Give people what they think they need, but give them, no, what's that saying? Give them what they want, but give them what they need. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes I notice when people come to me, they're like, if my children will just listen to me, if I could just have, a day to myself, if I could just, and it's like, why are we just adjusting in our life? If I could just lose that weight, if I could just get up early in the morning. And there is this not only mindset shift, but like, it's a very vulnerable thing to do when you're just willing to let go of the number on the scale and trust the process. So what do you notice, or have you noticed maybe about yourself and your own journey, or when you're working with women and they go from that place and like, okay, Amanda, I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to let go of the number and let go of what I look like, do the inner work first to see the outer results. What do you notice happens there, the transformation?
I think it's just, the word that as you were talking comes to mind is like freedom. It's just, I like to think that I offer a blend of science and a blend of like the emotional piece, which I think that sometimes you have either one of streams. It's either all science, quantitative data, or it's like very abstract and hard to connect to. And so I felt like my goal is to find that happy medium point. And so what I notice with women is often, like you said, at the beginning, I will sometimes give them what they want. I'll give them some sort of accountability when it comes to food. And then I'll just say to them, okay, but when you can't do that thing, that's where the juicy parts are for me. I want to know, because everybody will say, of course, I know what to do on paper, but I can't make it happen. And so, like that's where everybody's problems are. We all know what to do as parents on paper and we can't make it happen, or I'd like to think we do. For the most part, we do with food. And so the juicy part gets revealed when you're vulnerable enough to say, it went to hell in a handbasket today. And I am now seeing why. And so I think that's what I see most with women is when they become vulnerable enough to let me into their flaws and their struggle points, then all of a sudden it's like this momentum is gained because we get a clear, definitive view as to the root cause. And so I'm waiting. Like I'm sometimes a client will start and it's kind of like, I have a client, she's like, I'm an A+ student. And I was like, oh, your A+ status will fall off. And I know it will. And I'm just going to sit by and wait because life will get to you and you're going to care much less about me being your coach at some point. And it was 3 weeks in or so. And she's like, you're right. I'm a D student right now. And so much good came from that because we got to see what was really happening.
Yeah. I always say, oh, I've been waiting for this moment, or I've been waiting for this person to show up, because it is that mask that so many women wear, where it's like, I've been putting on this facade, trying to be all the things for everybody else or trying to check the boxes. And it's not working for me anymore because I know I feel out of alignment.
Mm-hmm.
What was that moment for you? Like, I know you just gave us a little insight into what your journey was like, but when you realized, maybe it was that moment where you were going after, I got to get that physical look. But what was that for you when you were like, I need to be vulnerable and open and honest and to pull back the curtains to realize that this is not what I was really after?
I remember my husband took this photo of me at the gym and I was like, the most shredded I'd ever been. I was getting ready for a shoot that I was going to do for some like photos for my website. I was preparing for that. I had this fake ass tan. And I remember that day, everybody was like, Amanda, you look so amazing. Da, 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 da. And I was like, thanks. And I was like, I don't feel freaking good at all. I was miserable and I was hungry and I was dehydrated and I felt stupid with a tan. And I was like, what the F am I doing? Like, this isn't really happiness. This is because am I seeking validation from everybody else? And I was at that point using a tool that's actually very powerful to increase food awareness, but it was a crutch for me. Like, I was utilizing it to help me disguise some of the emotional shit I was dealing with, because I have and have worked through on my own a lot, just emotional eating, stress eating. And I realized it wasn't really being managed. It was just being masked by my ability to log my food in a phone and make sure I don't go over targets. And I was, this is not how I want to help my clients either. I know that there is a much deeper level of transformation I can offer them. And I want to figure out how to do it. I feel like that this is my mission and purpose. And I think that was one of, I guess, 2 major turning points for me.
So what was that like when you really decided to go deeper with people? Were they like, oh, I don't want to do the work? Were they open to it?
Yes, there was. I had both in the beginning. I mean, I was reaching out to current clients and saying, like, these are the things I'm seeing. Would you just mind sharing with me? And some were really receptive. And then there was a screeching halt to some people who were like, oh, nope, I'm good here. I'm good right here. And so what I found was this duality happening in my business where I was kind of closing out. And I even had a lot of resistance. And this is where you and I actually started. I was like, Heather, this, like, I know there is more for me coming in my business. I see it now. I had a really hard time of letting that go, because even though those goals were very aesthetic driven, there was still good happening, right? And I don't want to take that away. There was still this amazing level of confidence that was coming. There was still great connection with my clients. But I wasn't as intrinsically motivated, because I was craving more of a one-to-one contact, deeper level work. And I knew that in order to continue to light my fire, I kind of had to like merge away from this and move to this.
This brings us kind of full circle to, well, not even full circle, but back to what feels good to you, right? Like knowing when something is off. It could be in your work. It could be in your physical body. It could be in relationships. It could be anything. You're just like, oh, there's something off. And too often we get that little hit of something being off and we don't listen to it. And you shove it down, shove it down, shove it down until you're numb and you're like, oh my gosh, which pain point or symptom do I look at first? Which nudge do I follow first? So what have you noticed now that you're really stepping into the work that you want to do, how you want to show up? It could be in your work, in all aspects of your life. What else have you noticed falling into place in alignment? How does that feel on the inside?
Well, I mean, I had this aha moment the other day that I didn't even share with you either. I was talking with someone, a couple of people had asked me to come talk in their groups and what have you. And I would say that the first few years of business, I had such fear and resistance to speaking publicly, to being really putting my face out there in business. And I realized it was because I felt like I was, I don't even want to say a copy, but I felt like I was just kind of, the things out there weren't my own, right? It wasn't things that I discovered through my work with clients. And in the last few years, all of a sudden it was like, boom, like I can talk about anything for hours and I don't need notes and I don't need any of this, because this is just who I am. And this is the message. And this is the passion that I have for transforming women and guiding them. And so that's a big thing for me, is I am unafraid to talk about the things that I am passionate about and the things that I believe need to be switched when it comes to the weight loss and health space. And from that, it's like, it's proprietary content. Like nobody created it but me. And that feels so damn good, to be out in the world sharing your unique message. I would say that, from that shift too, is the type of client that I'm attracting and working with. Like when my alarm goes off at 4:30 or 5 in the morning, I'm hopping out of bed with excitement for the day. And like, there's certain people that will pop, like when I see certain clients come up on my roster for the week, I am like, I cannot wait to get on the phone with her and find out what's happening in the last, few weeks or whatever. So there's just so much more excitement for life. Mm-hmm. And when you're doing the work that you're excited about and you're being authentically you and sharing stuff out there that you don't know how people are going to react to or not, but you're attracting women into your life, then of course there's also this incentive that comes into your own life in the form of energy or money. And now, like, I'm also feeling so excited about where I'm at with my family, because I'm balancing being present in my business, but also being able to do things that we've never done as a family and travel. So, I mean, it's full circle.
Yeah. And what was that shift for you? Because I know when we met, that's like a common question that people get. Like, how can I'm so passionate about my work, or I want to work, but how can I spend time with my family as well? So what do you think the mindset shift was for you there?
Yeah. Well, it was at one of your retreats actually that I attended, I don't know, 8 months ago. And I think my belief is that I couldn't be a successful businesswoman and a successful parent simultaneously. And it was such a limiting belief that I feel like that was like a really pivotal moment for me to switch gears at that retreat, where the realization was, by being a powerful woman, I'm actually a more powerful mom. Yeah. And my daughter and son get to see that. And what it requires from me, though, on a strategic basis, is just really setting boundaries and being intentional. And you once told me to, or you said something in passing, I think that spoke to me. You probably don't even know it is like, I don't show up at my computer without knowing what I'm going to be there for. And so that requires me to have really clear practices in place. You and I both spend Sundays preparing. I call it my grounding day practice. Mm-hmm. But I know on Sunday what my entire week's going to be looking like, and those things that are going to move the needle in my business the most and in my family the most. And I have to hit, or set hard boundaries so that I can be really present. And I'm not saying it's easy. There's some days where I'm so damn excited to, answer Marco Polos for my clients that those boundaries get blurred. But I think for the most part, it's daily practice and executing them. And it allows me to be fully in both.
Yeah. And when we start, it's always this all or nothing mentality, or like, I want to get there now. And it's like, well, that's why we have support. It's like, slow the fuck down. We'll get there. And it's practice. That's what you said. And Amanda, you have this like commitment to your result, right? So people think you join something or you do something once and it's just like an uphill. And, when you decide to, kind of accept that life looks like this and it's up and down. I don't know if you've experienced this, but the ups and the downs the downs definitely don't feel so low. It gets more like this, right? So when people are like, oh my gosh, this is awful. This is horrible. Sometimes I'm like, that could have been prevented, like, unless it was a horrible accident or something. There's a lot of things that we can prepare for that we do not. And one thing, especially when it comes to food, is everybody eats every single day. And yet you open the fucking refrigerator at 5 p.m. for dinner and go, what are we going to eat? And so a lot of what I've learned from you, it's so interesting because our messages don't overlap, but we're teaching alignment, right? Mm-hmm. In very different ways. But it's like when you can put on certain hats, you're like, oh my gosh, I never looked at it that way, right? But it's like, just manage your energy, manage your food. But the stories we tell ourselves and the beliefs, that's where we really have to start digging and pulling back the layers, and continuously showing up. Like, don't give up just because something hasn't worked for you in the past. It's like, choose something different. Mm-hmm. So now I have a question for you that has nothing to do with food, but I know in the last few years, you've really upped your investment game. And of course that's monetarily, but I'm curious your perspective on that. Because you and I have had many conversations about, you kind of touched on it at the beginning of this conversation. Like, if you're putting $20 out there and you expect like your whole life to change, it's not going to. You might change that a little problem, but it really not everything's going to shift for you. So what has been your personal experience as you continue to grow personally and professionally with the bigger investments that you make in yourself? Because I know you've done some things that have been very outside your comfort zone the last few years.
Yeah. So when I began work with you, it wasn't my first time investing in myself. I had a critical moment, I would say, before. So when I began my business, it was a part-time thing. I was still working another job and coaching CrossFit on the side. So I kind of had my hands in lots of pots, and I was reaching that critical burnout where I knew something had to give. And at the same time, I was going through something that you and I have talked a lot about, and I've got a lot of help from you along the journey, as my relationship with women and that competitive nature piece. And this does tie into your question eventually, I promise. Because the breaking point when I originally needed help was because I was so caught up in the comparison game. I was literally in a dark, dark place. And at the time, I didn't know who you were, but I did reach out and came into contact with another coach that really helped begin the journey of transformation. And I saw value in it. And I connected with you along that journey. And somehow I just kept coming back to you. There was something about you that I don't know what it was even at the moment, that I was like, I do know she's building something that I'm curious about and that I think that I might want to build as well, or something similar. And I'm a firm believer that if somebody has what I want to go learn from them and immerse myself in it and grow from them. And so that's when I reached out. I was like, I'm not really sure. I know you're a parenting coach, but I think there's more in there. Can you help show me the way? And I think for me, I was scared shitless to invest in myself once we talked about it. And it wasn't that it was the money. It was, am I going to show up for myself in a way that is going to be worth the energetic and the monetary investment? And so it had nothing to do with you. It was kind of like I was at this cliff and it's like, Amanda, how bad do you really want this? And for me, it was like, I can't spend the rest of my life not becoming the person that I know is living inside there somehow. And so it was like this small investment led to a larger investment. And although I remember in the beginning, I was like, Heather, can you please tell me the ROI? Like, how much more dollars am I going to make in my business? And I mean, I've doubled my revenue this year, and it was a turning point in investing with you because it was the things that we've talked about in the relationship we have been fantastic, but it was more about I'm not making this investment and not returning the favor to myself to show up. And that investment led me to invest more and then to make a huge investment in the last few months that it was like, yeah, like I know what's going to come of it because it's going to make me show up bigger than I ever have. And the ROI sometimes in these investments, we want to see tomorrow, like make me a better parent next week. Help me lose 50 pounds by the end of this 6 months. And the truth is that it's the gift that keeps on giving. Because I'm going to learn right now things that I'm going to be putting into practice for 15 years or till the end of my life. But I'm also going to be teaching that to my kids. And that to me is the biggest game changer that I know I can give my clients. And then I feel like that you've helped me to understand. So yes, I mean, investments now aren't so scary.
Yeah. And I think it's that mindset that you just said where it's not, people will get tripped up and, we're not going into the conversation of can you actually afford it? Because if you are taking food off your table or you can't pay your bills, then that's a different conversation. But even then, you can pull rabbits out of a hat because I've done it many, many times. I've literally sold everything to make shit happen in my life. But why did I do that? Because I made a commitment to myself. And I think at the end of the day, Amanda, that's how people see results. It's, nobody is selling smoke and mirrors and all of that shit. It's like, why does one person see a result and the other person doesn't? Yes, it could just be that there was alignment or there's a belief, right? You're not seeing results. Okay, something is off. Let's talk about it. But how come two people are on the same journey? One is like, oh my God, I'm seeing results. Let's just say, you know what? I'm going to just make shit up. There's a third person. One is just, she's seeing results. The other person, both of them, 2 and 3, they're struggling. They're on the struggle bandwagon. One, you never hear from her. She just fucking goes on her merry way. But the other one, she goes, I need your help. I've made a commitment. I made this investment. I want to figure it out. She's willing to collaborate. She's willing to say, show me what I can't see. Help me. It blows my mind when people are utilizing excuses and projecting their fears and insecurities on why they can't get what they want in life. And I'm just like, ladies, you can lose the weight. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can you can be that quote unquote successful business owner. You can be that mother. You can be that wife. You don't have to be all these things to other people. You can be content when you go to bed at night and wake up feeling energized. But you have to be willing to ask yourself some very difficult questions. And Amanda, hands down, you were willing to do that where other people are not. You're not. everyone has the ability to do this. You just have to be able to say, am I going to show up for myself? And that is like a very scary question to ask sometimes.
Well, and I think just to toot your horn too is, I think we are both here to serve clients and not please them or be their best friend. And sometimes some women don't respond to that very well, even though they know they need it. But I think one thing I feel like you've given me the permission to do more, but you've done for me the entire time is it told me the things I need to hear and not the things I want to hear. And that's hard shit to hear sometimes, but every single time, not even 1% no, 100% of the time, it helps me shift into more. It helps me, lose the belief or work through the belief a little bit more, or be able to see things with more objectivity, whatever the case is. And I think that that's really powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, part of the reason why I wanted to have this conversation is because I just love you so much. You have been one of the most impactful people in my life in the last few years, even though you would be like, what, how, I don't know. And not because of, like I said, not even because of everything the free value, but just being in your energy. And that is where the magic is. Like when you are that person that practices what you preach, and also you're able to speak the truth, right? Where people would be like, oh, it's okay, it gets better. You're like, no, I'm just going to go right to the source and tell you why you're not seeing results. Which is also why I think you make a powerful coach. So can you tell the ladies what you're up to in 2020, where they can find you? And yeah, maybe what you got going on.
Well, first off, the end part there, I ditto that back to you. I just need to say that. You're amazing. Okay, 2020, amazing. Thanks for both of us. To kickstart the new year, though, I'm kind of taking an anti-resolution approach, and I'll be hosting kind of a 5-day workshop series called Feel Amazing Naked Reboots. And it's a focus on letting go of resolutions and focusing on micro habits. So you can visit feelamazingnaked.com/2020, and there's a complete workbook to download that has some bonus stuff in it, like a vision for 2020, a reflection for 2019, but you're going to see a strong undercurrent of habit formation. And that's really I want after the 5 days, women to walk away with a habit-based approach to the year that's actual strategy instead of these big resolutions with no action associated with them. So that's a kickstart to the year. That's all free to join me. And I also have a podcast, which you've been a guest on, and I'd love, of course, to have you back. That's called Feel Amazing Naked as well. So I offer frequent workshops. My group program is called Feel Amazing Naked. And right now, during December and into January, I'm hosting a slew of bonuses for women that are ready to take action on their health. And I also have one-to-one coaching. So all exciting things coming up.
Amazing. So reach out to Amanda. You're very approachable as well. So I'm sure if they send you a message on Instagram or something like that, they'll be able to find you.
A walk my way on Instagram.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me and for just making me a better woman.